Welcome to the Explainer. So today we are diving into a pretty intense prophecy, one that's rooted in the I Ching. It warns of a global life and death test coming our way in the year 2026. The source material paints a really stark picture of the future. So let's get right into it and unpack exactly what it claims is on the horizon.
Wow, talk about an opening line. The source doesn't pull any punches, does it? Right away, it frames the coming years not as some typical recession, but as a genuine test of survival. The whole idea here is that our very definition of what's valuable is about to be completely flipped upside down. It's not about what's in your bank account, it's about what's coming out of your tap.
So you're probably asking, where does such a dire warning even come from? Well, to really get it, we need to look at the theory behind it all. The prophecy uses the traditional Chinese calendar's 60-year cycle to pinpoint 2026 as the return of what it calls the Red Horse Calamity.
Okay, so the whole thing really hinges on the year 2026. In the calendar, it's known as a Bing Wu year. And according to the source, that specific combination is a huge deal, uniquely fierce and dangerous. It's described as a year of fire without water. I mean, just picture that. It's a scorched earth kind of energy.
Now this is where it gets super interesting. Bing Wu isn't just one kind of fire, it's two. You've got Bing, which is the fire of the sun, way up in the sky. Then you have Wu, which is the fire at high noon, the blazing heat on the ground. The source says these two fires stack on top of each other. It's like a double dose of pure heat, creating this incredibly overwhelming fiery energy. So why a 60-year cycle? Well, the prophecy tells us to look back at the last Bing Wu year, which was 1966. And think about it. That was a time of massive social and political fire, right? The Cultural Revolution, the Vietnam War heating up. The source argues that this wasn't a coincidence. It was an excess of this fire energy, what it calls the fire of man's heart spiraling out of control. And all the extreme weather we're seeing today, according to this theory, that's just the appetizer for the main course in 2026.
Okay, so this double fire energy isn't just going to mean a really hot summer. The claim is that it's going to trigger 5 major systemic crises. The source calls them gray rhinos. You've probably heard of a black swan event, right? Something totally unexpected that comes out of nowhere. A gray rhino is the opposite. It's a giant, obvious threat that's charging right for us. We can all see it, but we tend to ignore it until it's way too late. The first gray rhino, and really the foundation for all the others, is water. Or, to be more specific, a severe lack of it. We're talking about a massive systemic drought. The source is very clear. This isn't your typical dry spell. This is an extreme event that could make the historic droughts we've seen recently look minor.
And you can see how this would create a massive chain reaction. A lack of rain isn't just about water rationing. It means crops fail. It means industries that need tons of water, like semiconductor manufacturing, have to shut down. The prophecy puts it really bluntly. Water is wealth. When the water dries up, wealth gets cut off, period.
All right, let's move to the second crisis, and this one hits a lot closer to home, our health. The source calls 2026 a ghost gate, which is a pretty chilling term. It's basically a major test of survival, especially for middle-aged and older adults whose bodies are just more vulnerable to this kind of extreme environmental stress.
So how does this work? The theory uses the 5 elements to explain it. This overwhelming fire energy basically goes on a rampage in the body. It attacks metal, which is linked to your lungs. It directly assaults the heart, which is a fire element itself, and it boils away water, which is connected to your kidneys and all the essential fluids that keep your body running. The third predicted gray rhino is a total failure of our power grids. And the logic here is kind of a perfect storm. On one hand, you've got record-breaking heat, so everyone is cranking up the air conditioning and demand for electricity skyrockets. At the very same time, that heat is physically beating down on the infrastructure, transformers, power lines. In 5 elements terms, that's fire melting metal. The result? Frequent, widespread blackouts.
Next up, a major financial crisis. And you guessed it, it's linked back to the elements. Fire burns metal, and in this context, metal represents money, financial assets. The prophecy predicts a period of crazy inflation, where the value of cash, savings, and pensions just gets torched. This would be absolutely devastating for retirees and anyone on a fixed income.
And the final crisis, this one is invisible, but you'd feel it everywhere. It's psychological. The claim is that all this fire energy will create an unnamed fire in people's hearts. What does that mean? A massive spike in irritability, impatience, and conflict. We're talking more arguments at home, more road rage incidents, basically a society with a very, very short fuse. Okay, I know, that's a seriously bleak picture. 5 massive crises all hitting at once. But this is where the source material pivots in a big way. It doesn't just predict doom, it actually offers a detailed blueprint for how to survive, and even thrive, by pushing back against this dominant energy. And the core idea? It's beautifully simple. If the problem is too much fire, the solution has to be water.
The first step, according to the source, starts right in your own home, using Feng Shui principles. You need to rebalance the energy. It identifies the south of your house as the crater, the fire zone, and says you should block the intense sunlight with heavy, cool-colored curtains like blues and grays. On the flip side, the north is the life-saving water position. That's where you want to put things like a fish tank or even a small flowing water feature to bring that calming energy inside.
Beyond just your home, the prophecy gets very personal. It provides a kind of elemental health guide. The idea is that every single person has a core elemental type based on their birthday, and each type is going to react to a double fire year in a very different way. So figuring out your type is the key to knowing how to take care of yourself.
So, have a look here. Once you figure out your element, you get a personalized survival guide. For example, if you're a water type, you're at high risk of just totally burning out. The advice: eat black foods, like black beans or sesame, to support your kidneys. If you're a fire type, you have the highest risk of heart issues, so you should eat bitter foods, like bitter melon, to help cool that inner fire. Each element gets its own custom strategy. It's fascinating. But the source makes it really clear that all these physical preparations are not enough on their own. The ultimate goal isn't just to fight fire with water, it's to achieve a state of inner balance. It's called Shui Hu Ji, which means water over fire. And the image it creates is perfect. Think of a pot of water on a stove. The fire below provides the heat, the water above is in the pot. They work together constructively to cook food, to create something nourishing. That's the state of perfect balance you're aiming for. And this is where the whole message really shifts from fear to responsibility. It's like, for those who understand what might be coming, their role is to become what the source calls the family's sea-stabilizing divine needle. What a powerful idea, right? To be that pillar of strength and calm that holds everyone steady when things get turbulent.
So that leaves us with this final thought. We've broken down the prophecy, the warnings, the practical tips. But the ultimate advice here isn't a to-do list, it's a mindset. In a world that's supposedly filled with overwhelming fire, the core challenge it throws at us is a really personal one. How do you become that calming, balancing force of water?